Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, Levy Rozman, aka Gotham Chess, retired from over the world community play a few years ago. But lately, he has made a comeback in the Madrid Chess Festival. And boy, he's having a really good tournament. So, in this recap, I will be covering his fifth game against Lelys Martinez. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. So, let's get right into it. D4, knight f6, and he goes for a Trompowsky. D5, and now c5 is played. Here he just plays c3, queen b6, and now rook b1, e5. And now, as you can see, black has a large center. So I was watching this game live, and to be honest, the chat said that this position seemed rather intimidating for white because e4 and c4 seem to be rather threatening. But to be honest, it's not that simple.
Because
If you play, for example, knight e2, which was played, if e4 is played, then after bishop c2, it's not that hard because I mean you can just chip away with f3 or c4, and white's perfectly fine. For example, let's just say bishop d6. You either go c4 or even you can just castle and play f3, and you can just chip away at black center. Black center is just overextended here. So going back to the game, bishop e7 was played, castles, and a3. So the idea is pretty simple here. I think Levy is trying to expand on the queen side, which in fact he does. b4, c4, bishop c2, h6, bishop takes, and e4, attacking the center. So after and takes, knight e5 was played, and here I was watching this game live, and the engine suggested h3. Simply try to restrict this bishop, because here initially I also thought maybe knight e4 is a good move because you're attacking the bishop twice. But actually h3 has to be played here because you need to restrict black's bishop from coming to this g4 square. The main reason is because this bishop is kind of hard to develop here. It's rather restricted. It's going to be very difficult to actually develop, and bishop g4 is just, as you will see, it's a massive threat. And h3 absolutely had to be played here. So going back to the game, knight e4 was played, and here bishop g4. Levy said that he literally did not think this move was possible. If white takes, then simply bishop takes e2, queen takes b6, a takes b6, and after rook e1, bishop d3, and just black is winning. This a3 pawn is hanging, this bishop's hanging, black's completely winning here. So yeah, knight e4 just runs into bishop to g4, and now Levy is actually losing. Here again he had to play h3 as recommended by the engine, but rook fe1, which turned out to be another blunder, but it only is a blunder because of one really good move which literally is almost impossible to find. Karu in his recap said that if you give a super grandmaster around like 10 minutes, maybe they'd find it. But yeah, the move is actually queen to g6, and this is just crazy. Black runs into this x-ray by the bishop, and but to be honest, it's just completely winning for black. Because if, for example, you play queen takes d4, then after bishop takes e2, and if you take back, then we have this fork. This is pinned, it's check, and you win the queen. But in fact, if you don't take the bishop and play knight g3, black's still winning anyway because you just practically lose a piece. And after knight takes e2, then knight d3, and this is just completely lost for white. So thankfully for Levy, that was not played, and instead knight d3 was played, which again allows Levy to equalize by taking. So his opponent's idea is simply after takes, takes, and takes, he sacrifices the rook to play bishop takes f2, forking the king and rook, and bishop takes e1. Now is an important moment in the game. Levy must be careful exactly which bishop he takes. If he takes this bishop on e1, then after bishop d7, rook e8 is coming, and he literally just cannot advance this d pawn any further because his bishop is just blocking the way. Rook e8 is coming, and this is just nasty. Black's dominating here. So good job by Levy. He played queen takes g4 and queen f2. But to be honest, I think maybe instead of queen f2, bishop d2 should have been played, aiming to play bishop g5 and bishop e7, just simply rerouting his bishop back. Anyway, so we got queen f2, and the game continues. Rook d1, rook e8, knight g1, simply preventing any back rank checkmate ideas. Rook d8, d6, pushing his pass pawn. If you have a pass pawn on an open file, it's always better to push it. Bishop c3, queen e4, queen b6, d7, and here his opponent missed an important idea and played the normal looking bishop f6. This seems like a general move, right? But to be honest, he missed a very crucial idea. Much better would have been queen c6, but bishop f6 was played. So this blunders queen e8 check, and obviously black can't take because he just recapture and promote to a queen. King h7, and yeah, queen takes f7. So black just blundered a pawn, and to cap all that off, he has to deal with this d pawn, this d pass pawn. So, which is exactly why I said instead of bishop f6, queen c6 should have been played, and now you no longer can play this move because takes, takes, and you just lose the queen for no reason. So back to the game, white wins a pawn, and queen c6 was played. Queen h5. To be honest, much better would have been knight f3 because after queen h5, this allows black to play g6, and now white has to play something like queen h3, and the problem with this move is white can no longer play h3, creating an escape square for his king. So after maybe queen h3, white will always have to be on the lookout for this back rank threats. His knight is on g1, so he'll have to be careful. Anyways, that was not played, and instead we got queen to e4, queen c5, a6, queen c7, and b5. Again, this move is just not necessary because he's fixing his pawns, and which means this c5 and a5 squares can be very useful for this knight. Knight c5, knight a5 is now a possibility because if this pawn was on b7, the knight c5, if knight c5 was played, then simply b6 and the knight would have to move away. But now that's not possible. Okay, knight f3, queen c4, queen d6, queen b3, and now Levy was under serious time pressure. He had 4 minutes, and his opponent was going for his pawns, and in this position, he played the right move. He had to play queen to d3 check, which was pretty much the only move here. Queen d3 check, forcing an exchange of queens. And this is much better for Levy because his knight can just march over to c5. However, if, for example, black's king was on g8, this would be a very different story because black's king can reach to e7 extremely fast, and then rook takes d7 is actually a problem. But in this case, king g8, knight d2, king f7, knight b3, and white is just on time to protect his pawn, and bishop takes e5. And to be honest, Levy said that he was very surprised. Why is his opponent allowing him to have two passed pawns? Well, after b takes c5, I think his opponent's idea was to create some sort of blockade here. c6, rook f8, king g1, just obviously preventing any back rank checkmate ideas. King d8, rook e3, a5, rook e5, and here you have to be very careful because black has king c7 idea. So rook takes a5 was played, king c7, and a takes b4. This requires extremely precise play because even the slightest inaccuracy here and black can escape with a draw. King takes c6, rook f5 again, chef's kiss, the perfect move here. Because now if rook takes rook, simply the pawn promotes, which means the rook has to move away, rook a8, and now we play rook f7, and now white's pawn is sufficiently defended, and rook takes g7 is coming, and this is just completely winning. King c7, and Levy finishes this off in the most precise and simplistic way possible. He promotes to a queen, and his opponent resigns because after king takes d8, check, you win the rook, and the king will just march up and grab these two pawns because there's an outside pass pawn here. Fantastic win. And finally, Levy, if by any chance you're watching this, good luck for the rest of the tournament. Go get that GM norm. See ya.